It's a strange and terrible sensation to hit anything while driving your car, especially when you're not exactly sure what you hit. But what if you know exactly what you hit because you could see it, but you can't quite believe what exactly you're seeing? It's Death of a Unicorn. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Death of a Unicorn. Death of a Unicorn, written and directed by Alex Sharfman, starring Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Richard E. Grant, Will Poulter, Tia Leoni, Anthony Carrigan, and Katheryn Erbe. And as usual, for a complete cast listing, you can go to the link in our show notes. I am not here alone. I am here with
Laura Beth Nichols.
Laura Beth Nichols, Boston correspondent. Laura Beth Nichols. How many socks of Red Sox do you give? No, I'm kidding.
Every sock.
Give me. I'm sockless.
Go Sox.
All right. So, Death of a Unicorn follows. If you've seen the preview, this is a new A24 film. It follows a father and daughter as they go to work out a business dealing with the father's potential business partner. He is a lawyer, and he's working with some very rich people about potentially working with them on their final acts for an ailing rich person who has his wife and son with him, along with a butler and also like a house manager, some security guards. Those are around the mansion that they're going up to. On the way there, they hit a unicorn. And when they hit the unicorn, that kind of sets off a series of events that follows the rest of the film. We'll do our best to prevent spoilers, but that's pretty much the plot of the film. Boston correspondent Laura Beth Nichols, what did you think of this movie?
I liked all of it. Go Sox, go Pats, go Celtics. Gotta get that out of the way. I fucking loved this movie. I had so much fun. I haven't had that much fun in a new concept movie in so long, or maybe I'm not even being truthful about that. I can't remember, but it is rare. And it reminded me so much. There was so much good homage to, and I'll just say it because we were both thinking it, this is big Jurassic Park.
Big Jurassic Park.
Oh, the biggest. Not only Jurassic Park 1, but J Park 2.
Also Jurassic Park 2, correct.
Jurassic Park 2 and the book Jurassic Park.
Also the book.
Like deeper cuts were kind of in there. And I was like, oh man, this movie loves horror. And the comedy it was perfectly matched. The horror comedy was like balanced, I think, to perfection. It was gory, but never for long, and never to be like upsetting you too.
Not gratuitous at all.
Not at all.
It was graphic, but not gratuitous, I would say.
That's a perfect way to say it. Even one of the deaths was from the Jurassic Park book that wasn't even in the movie. And I was like, oh my, these people love this. But it never felt like it was derivative, like in a way that was overstated. The casting, pitch perfect. Pitch perfect. When it started, I will say I had a moment of being like, all right, Jenna Ortega, when are we going to get this girl? When are we going to let her graduate from high school, college, whatever? Like, is this poor kid going to be in school for the rest of her life? And, Paul Rudd's doing his like nice guy, whatever, like bland Paul Rudd thing. But as soon as you meet Tia Leoni, when I saw Richard E. Grant, Will Poulter, are you fucking kidding me? This cast, and they all have their thing, right? Each one of them is very good at one thing, and they did it so well. It was never the shticky kind of thing. It was balanced enough to never make you tired of any of them, while developing the characters in real time and constantly revealing new little things about them, like where the mom, when she kind of reveals her sort of fake philanthropy, or when the son, his greed. I did notice that all of their demises, without spoiling, were related to their particular kind of greed or ignorance. I thought that was very smart. And on top of that, there was a really beautiful, touching commentary on family and parents and fathers and daughters, which is kind of a rare combo in movies. You don't really see a lot of father-daughter stories. And when it took the time to pause on that, again, very well balanced. I really felt it. It never felt like overstated. It was so funny. It was campy at times. My only thing I'll say is the CGI. When you think about it like Jurassic Park, the CGI is glaring.
You gonna do every thought on your opening?
Oh my God, I'm almost done. That's it. Okay, I'm done. Now I feel bullied. Now I feel bullied.
You literally went through every single thought.
You have to pull the mic away from me. It's Aries season just started. It's over.
All right, so I agree. I think what this movie does very well in the very beginning is it establishes the connection or what's going on between the father and the daughter. It opens with Jenna Ortega laying her head on Paul Rudd's shoulder, and him laying his head on his head and closing his eyes. But then, and I wondered why this happened. Some papers fall out of his lap. They're on a plane. Some papers fall out of his lap, and rather than take in the moment and just be with her for a minute, he basically moves out of the way to grab the papers where her head drops as she wakes up. So there was a moment in which he could have had peace with her, and instead he kept like reaching for something that he thought he needed, which was kind of what he did for the rest of the movie. And it establishes this right up front who these people are. And so for the rest of the film, it stays consistent with those two in that relationship. The big thing I would say that I noticed you did not say was allegory.
You took the mic from me.
Okay, all right. You were rapping. You were putting out a mixtape over there, but I'm saying like allegory. There's like, this movie is talking, I don't know if it's talking about climate change or just general greed or the pharmaceutical companies, but all of them could have been like swapped out seamlessly with no thought. Capitalism, very, very easy. And I thought it was smart in a way that like just really made you want to keep watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. The class stuff was again really, really well stated without being overstated. It could have been ridiculous, especially in today's climate, if you will. There was a lot of satisfying things to watch, but it did make a point about I thought it was actually making a very sophisticated point on who belongs on what rung of the ladder.
Yes.
It wasn't upstairs, downstairs, like the completely the help versus, completely the rich. That was in there, but it was very clear. Even at one point when they were choosing who was going to go on a mission.
Yes.
It was designed to show you who belonged on what rung of privilege, which I thought was very smart. And I kind of love, the woke unicorns came through and they said, I see what's going on here and I'm going to take care of it. And that was very fun. That the wokeness one was just one of my favorite kind of little bits.
I think, especially when you talk about the rung of humanity, there was a moment there where you're right. Someone is being chosen for something in a survival situation in which the people who had the most power in normal times did not have any leverage over any of the poor folks or the people who were then volunteered to put their lives on the risk. To put their lives at risk to save everyone else, which was kind of wild. I was like, wow, and they still did it and they didn't have to, which was kind of unusual. And there were people right in the middle that kind of felt like, oh, I don't know what to do. What can I do? I'm like, you guys outnumber them. Why wouldn't you just vote the other way? You know what I mean? Which I was like, man, that like really, really strong allegory. I think the CGI didn't bother me because I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, they made them look as much like horses as possible with horns. And that was fine with me. I'm like, at some point, in the very beginning, what this movie does is establish that it's going to be weird, and it's when early in the movie, she grabs the horn. I mean, early in the first 10 minutes of this movie, she grabs the horn of a unicorn, and this mystical journey starts inside of her eyes and all that, and the unicorn blood is purple. So it starts off early by saying, hey, this is about to be weird. I hope y'all are with us. And because it stays there, and the actors took it seriously while also peppering in jokes, they turned it into something that I was along for the ride the entire time.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think the mysticism is fine. Again, they didn't lean too heavily on anything. It's almost like it's hard to critique. That's like a small nit to pick because, again, once you get Jurassic Park in your mind, especially with the car scene, that was very similar. You're like, damn, those animatronics hit, you know? So I think that's just like a small nit that took me out of it a little bit at times because they are moving quite a bit. They're running, they're moving things, whatever. But the parts that were practical were great. Like the horns, were beautiful, and those effects were really good. So that's true. And once you get on board with the mysticism, they kind of get out of the way that there's unicorns really fast. There's not a whole holy shit. They're like, okay, we got it. We're caught up.
Let's talk about Will Poulter for a second.
Forever.
Because, I think we know Richard E. Grant came to work, Téa Leoni came to work, both fantastic, played their roles well. Téa Leoni played a role that easily Toni Collette could have also played, and I feel like, but yeah, honestly, just did, and did fine in this one. But Paul Rudd clocked in, did his thing. He did exactly what he was supposed to, like a metronome. Jenna Ortega, I love seeing her in everything, put her in everything. I'm really enjoying her. But Will Poulter is the MVP of this film. He is funny. He is selfish. He is all over the place. He's on drugs. What did you think of Will Poulter?
Oh my God, the eyebrows alone. He knows how to pull a look. Just his expressions. Like, he's so funny to me because he does this thing where he can play very serious, but he knows exactly where the comedy is in his face, in his gestures. It doesn't even need to be the way what he says.
Yes.
He has so much physical comedy to him. For being like a traditionally handsome guy, there's something about that is just so fun because you can really slip in and out of so many roles. You're not expected to be like funny because you like look a certain way or whatever. It's like he doesn't care about being like a clown, a fool. I will say Richard E. Grant delivered lines that internally howling. There was one where he said, what does he say? Like, little sister, tell me your tales. Like, just asking someone to give him information. Like, he's so above and beyond. I kind of wonder if he improvised some of that because it was so well done.
Yeah, if you like him in this, there's a show on HBO Max or Max, and I'm forgetting what it's called. I think it's called Blockbuster. It's something about a blockbuster superhero film that they're making. He's in it, and he's in it a lot, and he's very enjoyable. This guy, like, he's really made Richard E. Grant specifically as kind of like just been showing up a lot more recently in a way that I've really, really enjoyed. And to speak to Jurassic Park references, that hat and that outfit he wore when they went hunting, it was like, I'm like, oh yeah, he's the Australian guy from the first one, you know what I mean? Like, and also Dr. Grant's hat, you know what I mean? But obviously there's something there's a lot of homage being played, but they were all game for it, which was good. I really don't have that many complaints, if at all. I'm sitting there as I was walking out, I was like, did I not like anything about this movie? And I'm like, I really didn't. With all that in mind, like, what are you rating this?
It's out of 5, right?
Yeah.
5 Red Sox, 5 baseballs?
Yeah.
Boston balls. Okay. I'm going to give it a freaking 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I loved it. I can't wait to watch it again. I had so much fun.
Yeah.
At one point, when I figured out the tone, I just got to sit back and be like, oh, I just get to enjoy this.
Yeah.
No other part of my brain has to be on, but enjoy this film. They've got you. You're in good hands. I love that feeling.
I would have loved if this movie came out 20 years ago and we could have like forced everyone to go watch it in the theaters exactly as it is, because I think we'd be quoting this movie. We'd be like clamoring for a sequel. We'd be very excited about it. I think I'm torn because I'm like, in my gut, I feel like I don't have any complaints, but there's something about it, and I can't put my finger on it, that is preventing me from giving it 5 stars, and I'm not sure what it was. I was mostly satisfied throughout the movie and at the end, and normally that's like a 5-star rating, but I don't know what it is, but I'm hedging my bet a little bit, but not by much. I think it's a 4.5 star. Like, I'm very close.
I'm confused.
I don't know. It's just something about it where I was just like, when I left, I was like, man, that was good. But I was like, I don't know if I was like missing something, if I wanted more, or what direction we're going in next a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's part of like my superhero, like, where is this going? Is this opening a whole universe? Like, there's part of me that's like, what more could we have? But I would say to my listeners, I give it a 4.5, but like maybe on a different day it's a 5. But I think it's up there. I have no complaints with your 5-star rating, because like maybe through the last quarter of the movie, I was like, is this a 5-star movie? I think it might be, but I'm thinking about my other 5-star movies, which was Godzilla -1 and The Wild Robot, 2 movies that I'm like, really enjoyed both of them. I left it, I was like, there's nothing but there's something in my gut that's saying like, not quite those, but still very good and very close.
That's really interesting, but because sequel did not come to me. Like, I don't have any curiosity.
I don't think a sequel would fix it either. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, to me, I've also been in a very big horror comedy place lately, where I'm really loving these self-contained, weird little stories where they're taking risks and big, strange swings, and like this is exactly up that alley. So to me, these little like gems of movies that aren't trying to. I think we're sort of course correcting a little bit cinematographically. I got that. That's a word. And one is that horror, it's like we don't need big, gross out, disgusting, nasty horror. We don't need comedies that are like Judd Apatow, ridiculous slapstick, offensive nonsense for whatever. It's like we figured out that whether you can balance the horror and the comedy in a way that makes people get that thrill and still feel relaxed in the movie and safe enough that they're gonna go. Because it's not like, if someone asked me who doesn't like horror, is this a scary movie? I would be like, no, it's as scary as Jurassic Park. We're coming back where the world is healing in this one tiny way that we need, which is like making horror thrillers that are funny and fun and light and make the characters likable and make sense without having to go to extremes. To me, that gives it the 5, because it's kind of like a rare thing that I want to keep seeing.
No, I think you're right. I think it is a 5-star movie, and I don't know, maybe I'll think about it more and something will congeal real and be like, it was this I had a problem with. But I'm like, I just don't have a problem with it being rated 5 or even 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. I would tell everyone, like, go see this movie. You'll be pleasantly surprised. You'll have a good time. Maybe like have a couple drinks, puff pass, like whatever you got to do. Get in there and enjoy. Go with your friends. I want to see it again, so I know it checks all the marks of 3, 4, and then something I don't know what it is in my gut that's not hitting it.
Was it too woke for you? I bet that was
Sure, that's exactly what it was. It was just a little too woke for me. Yeah, you know me. Big old hater.
Big old hater. Classically problematic Ronald.
Huge Tesla guy over here doing the Roman salute in the streets, man. Yeah. No, I mean, but I want to be clear. I don't disagree with a 5-star rating. I don't know why it is, but normally when I walk up and I know what my rating is.
It's a rare rating for you though, and with like a comedy like this, because the other two you named, what was the first one?
It was Godzilla -1 and The Wild Robot.
I feel like maybe it's like Oscar's brain a little bit, where like the comedy of it, maybe that's making it feel like a little less like a 5-star, and you like.
I don't think so, because I love the comedy. Like the jokes were very, very funny. Like I mean, I'll bump it up to a 4.75. I know there's something that I'm just not, and I feel weird even having this moment, because I'm like, what is it, Ronald? Why can't you actually articulate what it is? And I don't know what it is, but it's not much. Like, it's 0.25 stars.
That's really interesting. Have you ever had this small of a margin before?
Never. Not for a movie that I liked this much.
What could it mean?
I have no idea. There was something where I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's not the CGI exactly. Maybe it's the fact that I'm like, maybe it's that it was unicorns. Like, I don't know. Because there's parts of it where I was like, honestly, if you replace these unicorns with velociraptors, or if you replace all the velociraptors with unicorns, there's a lot of similarities between this and Jurassic Park, which I really enjoyed. But there's something that's like an itch I can't scratch.
That's interesting. Well, when I watched the trailer, I wondered if there's other mystical beasts kind of in the woods, in the wilderness or whatever, which might have been cool. Like, if there's ways of whatever.
I don't know. I think that would have knocked it down for me.
Yeah, no, I think actually knowing what the plot is, you're right. And keeping it really simple and just having a few creatures probably landed it. I'm just curious what it is. You got to tell me when we find out.
Well, see, and that's the thing. I feel like if I said 5 stars right now, I'd be dishonest with myself, but I know it's very, very good. I knew it was well above 4, and I was like, is it 5? It's 5, and I don't know what could have been one more thing that happened. You know what? Maybe part of it was the fact that I didn't really need. There was a final scene at the end that I didn't really need that, and I think if they had left me at the house with a hug, and that had been the end of the movie, I think that's 5 stars. I think actually that's exactly what it is. I think if you leave me at the house with a hug, that's a 5-star movie. But they added a little bit extra, and I was like, I don't really need all that. What was this? Was this an extra scene? Like, why did I need that?
That's actually a good point, because I kind of had the same thought. Like, there's something that happens, and as it's happening, I'm like, this can literally be undone by what's 10 feet behind you. Like, we just have to wait it out until that obvious solution happens, and then we're fine. And yeah, I guess I could definitely see that. But having just come off of Mickey 17, where the last hour was like, holy shit, I really got to go home.
Yeah, please stop. Turn it off.
Just free me. Because it was like maybe 3.5 minutes. I think that's why. I mean, I haven't enjoyed so much of it. But maybe the 3.5 minutes is the 7.75%, because that is technically, maybe we could do the math. That's about that much.
And I'd say a thing is, like, when I say satisfying, when you end a movie, like, I've heard people tell story. Lord of the Rings has like, Return of the King has like 4 different endings. And I remember at one point I was like, you could turn this off. We got it. Everything's done. I don't need any more of these like little buttons you're putting on stuff. And I feel like this was kind of a perfect example of like, something happens and then something else happens, and I was like, good, I wanted the something else to happen because I didn't feel good about this thing happening. So they fix it, and then all of a sudden they're just like, all right, and here's a little extra for you. And I'm just like, you're not really even giving me more with NoHo Hank, the butler. Oh, yeah. You're not really giving me more with him. You're not really giving me, like, I don't even understand why this other person who's driving them is even here, or why we need to know, like, why is that all important? You know what I mean? So I feel like, and they didn't face plant, but it was enough for us to be like, I was satisfied. And then it's like someone forcing you to keep, when you're full, and you be like, man, that meal was good. And they're like, you got to have some cake. Dessert, and I was like, I'm not hungry. They're like, well, have some cake. If you don't have some cake, blah, 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 you know?
No, I feel like you worked it out in real time. I completely agree with you. I think that is, what bums me out? The NoHo Hank thing is one thing. I kept waiting for him to pop. Like, what that man can do with physical comedy could him and Will Poulter,
Underutilized.
why weren't they put against each other in a scene? They would have been. Why was he like 6 words in the entire movie? Like that's
all good words.
Yeah, no, he delivered what he had, but I would just love to see an extended cut where he gets a little more to do.
Yeah.
Because in the end, actually, that gave me a little bit of almost a Get Out vibe, and it was but like going like I don't know, there was like a little twisty turny there with that horror comedy again. There's like these homages going on, but I'm with you on that. I don't think they needed that.
Yeah, okay, we worked it out. I think that's what it is. All right, well, with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh It's Big Ron Studios. I mixed this episode. By the time you're hearing this on Monday, that means I released something on Patreon on Sunday that's already available if you are a Patreon subscriber. Hopefully it's very good. Hopefully you like it a lot. Hopefully you're looking at this and being like, wow, I hope Ronald does more things like this on Patreon. I feel happy being a Patreon subscriber. What a great day. And for all of y'all wondering, what did he do on Patreon? There's only one way for you to find out. You gotta jump on patreon.com. You could go be a subscriber right now. This was a press screening. However, I still had to pay for gas to get here. I still gotta go home. There's still a lot that goes into making this. I edit this for y'all every single week. I plan this out. I have spreadsheets. That's how I do this podcast. So if you wanna help me out, you can go to patreon.com/leavingthetheater or go to the link in our show notes. Show art by Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Death of a Unicorn or Laura Nichols, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, Threads, or Letterboxd at Oh It's Big Ron. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studio shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron Studios. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening. And thank you, Boston correspondent Laura Beth Nichols, for being on the show.
Go Boston!
Go Boston Sports.
We gotta whip some batteries now in the Boston way.
Oh yes, the Boston way.